Hello, and Hippie Day. How does slowing down sound to you today? Would you like to reduce the noise for just a bit? Are you ready to make a choice and decide to listen? My name is Igor S.F. Walker. I am here to remind people to slow down, to reduce the noise, to walk their lives into a natural flow. Welcome back to the Book of the Week series. Every week as I read another amazing title, I share it with the world. Today we look at Drawdown, the most comprehensive plan ever proposed to reverse global warming, by Paul Hawking. Today, the Drawdown Fellows comprise 70 individuals from 22 countries. 40% are women, nearly half have PhDs, and others have at least one advanced degree. They have extensive academic and professional experience at some of the world's most respected institutions. Together, they gather comprehensive lists of climate solutions and winnow them down to those that have the greatest potential to reduce emissions or to sequester carbon from the atmosphere. They then compiled literature reviews and devised detailed climate and financial models for each of the solutions. 120-person advisory board, a prominent and diverse community of geologists, engineers, agronomists, politicians, writers, climatologists, biologists, botanists, economists, financial analysts, architects, and activists who reviewed and validated the text. Almost all of the solutions compiled and analyzed lead to regenerative economic outcomes that create security, produce jobs, improve health, save money, facilitate mobility, eliminate hunger, prevent pollution, restore soil, clean rivers, and more. That these are substantial solutions does not mean that they're all the best ones. Decarbonization is a word that describes the problem, not the goal. We decarbonized the earth by removing carbon in the form of combusted coal, gas, and oil, as well as through deforestation and poor farming practices, and releasing it into the atmosphere. When the word decarbonization is used, it refers to replacing fossil fuel energy with clean, renewable sources. However, the term is often employed as the overarching goal of climate action, one that is unlikely to inspire and more likely to confuse. Another term used by the scientists is negative emissions. This term has no meaning in any language. Imagine a negative house or a negative tree. The absence of something is nothing. The phrase refers to sequestering or drawing down carbon from the atmosphere. We call that sequestration. It is carbon positive, not negative. This is another example where climate speak removes itself from common sense. The goal is to present solutions in the language that is accessible and compelling to the broadest audience, from ninth graders to pipe fitters, from graduate students to farmers. The use of the word drawdown names a goal that has been hitherto absent in most conversations about climate. Addressing, slowing, or arresting emissions is necessary, but it is insufficient. If you're traveling down the wrong road, you're still on the wrong road even if you slow down. The only goal that makes sense for humanity is to reverse global warming. And if parents, scientists, young people, leaders, and we, the citizens, do not name the goal, there's little chance it will be achieved. We are In writer Jeremy Laggett's words, squarely in the middle of the greatest energy transition in history, the era of fossil fuels is over. And the only question now is when the new era will be fully upon us. Economics makes its arrival inevitable. Clean energy is less expensive. The International Monetary Fund estimates that the fossil fuel industry received more than 5.3 trillion in direct and indirect subsidies in 2015. That is 10 million a minute, or about 6.5% of global GDP. Indirect fossil fuel subsidies include health costs due to air pollution, environmental damage, congestion, and global warming, none of which are factors with wind turbines. In comparison, the U.S. wind energy industry has received 12.3 billion in direct subsidies since 2000. Wind power uses 95 to 98% less water than fossil fuel generated electricity. Coal, gas, and nuclear power requires massive amounts of water for cooling. We're drawing more water than agriculture, 22 trillion to 62 trillion gallons per year. Water for many fossil fuel and nuclear plants is actually free, bestowed by the federal government or the state. But it is hardly free, and instead it represents another unacknowledged subsidy. Who else, besides the fossil fuel and nuclear power industries, can take trillions of gallons of water in the United States and not pay for it? Microgrids will play a critical role in the advancement of a flexible and efficient electric grid. The use of local supply to serve local demand reduces energy lost in transmission and in distribution, increasing efficiency of delivery compared to a centralized grid. When coal is burned to boil water, to turn a turbine, to generate electricity, 2/3 of the energy is dispersed as waste, heat, and inline losses. 2/3. According to the Geothermal Energy Association, 39 countries could supply 100% of their electricity needs from geothermal energy. Yet only 6 to 7% of the world's potential geothermal power has been tapped. It is a continuous neutral exchange, so long as use and replenishment remain in balance. Energy efficiency and cogeneration are integral to ensure that in any given year, carbon from biomass combustion is equal to or less than the carbon uptake of the replanted vegetation. When this balance is achieved, the atmosphere sees net zero new emissions. 100 solutions are featured in Drawdown. Of those, almost all are no-regret solutions. Society would want to pursue them regardless of the carbon impact because they have many beneficial social, environmental, and economic effects. Nuclear is a regret solution, and regrets have already occurred at Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, Rocky Flats, Kishton, Browns Ferry, Idaho Falls, Nihama, Luzens, Fukushima Daiichi, Tokiamura, Marquardt, Windscale, Bones, and Church Rock. Regrets include tritanium release, abandoned uranium mines, mine tailings pollution, spent nuclear waste disposal, illicit plutonium trafficking, thefts of fissile material, destruction of aquatic organisms sucked into the cooling systems, and the need to heavily guard nuclear waste for hundreds of thousands of years. Regret. When we try and pick out anything by itself, we find that hitched to everything else in the universe, it is. Globally, household air pollution is the leading environmental cause of death and disability ahead of unsafe water and lack of sanitation. And it is responsible for more premature deaths than HIV, AIDS, malaria, and tuberculosis combined. Regenerative agriculture practices restore degraded land. They include no tillage, diverse cover crops, on-farm fertility, no external nutrient source required, no or minimal pesticide or fertilizers, and multiple crop rotation, all of which can be augmented by managed grazing. The purpose of the regenerative agriculture is to continually improve and regenerate the soil by restoring its carbon content, which in turn improves plant health, nutrition, and productivity. Human beings are walking creatures, made to go about on foot, to amble, to march. The most of history, walking was the primary, if not only, form of transportation. All towns and cities were designed for getting around in a bipedal fashion. The 6 dimensions, the 6 Ds of the built environment: demand, density, design, destination, distance, and diversity. All are key drivers of walkability. The word drawdown describes the reduction of greenhouse gas concentration in the atmosphere. There are 2 means by which to achieve it: a radical decrease in human-caused emissions and widespread adaptation of proven land and ocean practices that sequester carbon from the air and store it for decades and even centuries. In order to properly measure the impact of land-based practices that would actually affect drawdown, they were broken up into discrete solutions. 13 are included under food, because they relate to food production. First, how land was being used world over was assessed. Then they calculated what would happen if the use were different, or if the techniques specifically being employed to graze or grow were actually altered. Although not included in the calculations, the research vividly shows how all 22 are no-regrets solutions. Implementation increases soil moisture, cloud cover, crop yields, biodiversity, employment, human health, income, and resilience, while dramatically reducing the need for synthetic fertilizers and pesticides on farmland. For both the rich and the poor, life is dominated by an ever-growing current of problems. Most of them seem to have no real and lasting solution. The ultimate source of these problems is in thought itself, the very thing our civilization is most proud. And therefore, the one thing that is hidden because of our failure seriously to engage with its actual workings in our own individual lives and in the lives of society. Use it to identify how you can make a difference, how each person thinks and perceives his or her role and responsibility in the world is the very first step in any transformation. The base upon which all change depends what we choose to eat and the methods employed to grow it rank with energy as the top causes and cures of global warming. Individual responsibility and opportunity do not stop there. They include how we manage our homes, how we transport ourselves, what we purchase, and even more. Reduce energy use through efficiency, material reduction, or resource productivity. Replace existing energy sources with renewable energy systems. Sequester carbon into soils, into plants, and kelp through regenerative farming, grazing, ocean, and forest practices. 14 integration models were developed for groupings of solutions that share common data sets and inputs: agriculture, building envelope, building systems, electricity generation, family planning, food systems, forest management, freight transport, heating, cooling, lighting, livestock management, passenger transport, urban transport, waste diversion. Please, do help out. It is easy. Simply like this video so more people can enjoy it. Share it too and spread the word. Subscribe to my channel and stay up to date. And the link to this book is in the description below, so buy it and read. Never stop learning. Thank you. Love and respect.